Absolutely. I'm so there we go. Got it. There we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Yes, no, I'm really happy to be here. So thank you to your site and thank you to Ms. Gordon for inviting me to be here. As she said, my name is Rebecca Fast. I work in the high school choice office. I am one member of a team of 5. There's 5 of us in the office, and our goal and our job is really to help transition our 8th grade families, both in Long Beach Unified and in our Long Beach community, transition to Long Beach high schools. So please, as I'm going through tonight's presentation, if there are questions, you can either drop them in the chat or maybe even unmute, and please feel free to ask as we're heading along, and I'll certainly have some
honey, I'm already on a meeting
to ask questions too. So if there's questions, our job is really to help make sure parents are comfortable and understand our process and answer any questions you might have along the way. So having said that, I am going to jump right in and share screen here and get started. Okay. So high school choice for the class of 2026. So I'm not sure, I should have asked before I had everybody on the camera. If this is your first 8th grader going through this process, I know you're probably in shock that they're already here, right? I am also a parent in the district. I have a 9th grader and a 10th grader. So I was in your shoes last year with my baby. So I understand. It's overwhelming and exciting and all of the emotions in between. So oops, how do I advance? It's not going forward. There we go, I'll go that way. Okay, so in our office, we like to look at the high school choice process in 3 stages: the preparation, the exploration, and the apply. So we're kind of already into that explore phase right now, but I'm gonna go through that preparation, and that preparation really does apply to our IVA families, as we wanna make sure you all ready for that application process. So I will be talking about enrollment and how to get that ready. And how to be prepared for that application. It is an online application. And so in order to have access to our online application, we need to get you in our system. So I will be definitely talking about that. So we look at it in prepare, explore, and apply. In Long Beach Unified, we have 11 campuses, and we are now wall-to-wall pathways. And so in our district, we are about 12 years ago, 15 years ago, we had some pathways in our district, and now all of our high schools, every student in our district is in one of our pathways, and I'll be talking about those too. We have 6 comprehensive high schools. Our comprehensive high schools are our large high schools, such as Cabrillo, Jordan, Lakewood, Milliken, Poly, and Wilson. We also have 5 thematic schools, which are much smaller, have more of a central focus. And our newest campus is Browning, which is in Signal Hill. We have CAMS, which is a consortium school at Cal State Dominguez Hills. What I mean by consortium is there are 11 school districts that feed into CAMS. So Long Beach Unified is just one of the school districts in CAMS. CAMS also works with 10 other school districts that all feed into CAMS. So we're one of the 11 school districts at CAMS. We have McBride, which is over by the Long Beach Town Center, Renaissance, our School for the Arts, which is downtown, and Sato, which is over by Cal State Long Beach. And so we have our small and our large high schools. Our comprehensive high schools are those big high schools. They have between 2,500 and 4,000 students. They have full CIF athletics. So at our comprehensive high schools, you'll have everything from a water polo team and golf and cheerleading, full CIF sports, full CIF athletics. We have at our comprehensive high schools some pathways that you do have to have a minimum GPA, many pathways where you do not. And so at our comprehensive, there are both. They have AVID, full special ed opportunities at our comprehensive high schools. And at our at our large comprehensive high schools, we do have residential priority, meaning if you live within that residential area, you do have priority in some of those pathways. At our smaller thematic high schools, the sizes are much smaller. So about 450 to 1,000 students at our smaller high schools. They do not have CIF athletics. Actually, that's not true. CAMS does have CIF. CAMS has CIF, I think it's basketball, soccer, track, cross country. There's one other sport at CAMS. I'm drawing a blank on what it is. So they have some, but most of our high schools don't. So that's really important because you have a student, we always get a few students who go to Renaissance or McBride, and then they're wondering when baseball tryouts are, and there are no CIF sports. That's not to say they don't have comprehensive intramural opportunities. For example, I know Sato and McBride just had a big basketball game, and it's like the Studebaker big basketball tournament. So they do have intramural sports, but not CIF. So that's something to consider if that's important for you. At our small thematic high schools, again, some have GPA requirements, some do not. There's not special day opportunities at our, at our small high schools. So they have RSP, but they don't necessarily have all the special education resources that our larger high schools do. And for our smaller high schools, there are no attendance boundaries. So meaning every student in the district is considered equal, or every student who applies is equal. So there's no, even if you lived like across the street from McBride, you wouldn't have priority in getting into McBride. Okay, so the two different types of high schools that we have here. And as I mentioned earlier, we are wall-to-wall pathways. We have what's called linked learning pathways. And in our pathways, students choose a pathway that is connected to an industry theme, and then they are grouped with those students in their core classes throughout the day. So for example, if you are in the engineering pathway at Cabrillo, then you will have your core classes, your English, your math, your history, your science classes with those engineering students. You might have more students maybe in an elective class or in a PE class, but in your core classes, you are going to be cored with your pathway cohort and with your pathway students. You'll also have teachers who are pathway teachers. So all of the students will have kind of an engineering slant if you're engineering pathway, and make some connections in all of your classes to that pathway. The same as if you were in an arts pathway or in a social justice or law pathway. So the industry theme is woven into classes and integrated in that subject area. In all of our pathways, no matter which high school you are at or which pathway, all students have access to AP classes. So it's not as if only certain students can take those high accelerated or honors or AP classes. Those are available to all students who are interested and or who qualify. And it's also something interesting to think that, none of our students are going to graduate high school as a doctor or as an engineer, but they'll definitely have some insight, some work experience, some internship experience, perhaps in that field. They'll also be gaining soft skills, critical thinking skills, interviewing skills, people skills, skills that will definitely translate into whichever career or college major they want to study. Okay. Another interesting thing I just want to point out about our pathways in Long Beach Unified is that they were chosen as the major industries that are here in Long Beach, in the city of Long Beach and the surrounding area. So the 15 industry sectors and pathways that we have represented at our schools match the top 15, or I think there's top 16. There's 2 that we don't necessarily have pathways for, but they match the top industries that we have in Long Beach and our surrounding areas. So arts, we have the Port of 2 schools with the Port of Long Beach connected pathway. Engineering, these are the jobs that are in our Long Beach area and our surrounding area. Okay, so again, pathways are just that link. Some students after high school might choose to go into the workforce or a trade based on that career pathway. Some students will go to college and pick a major that is related to that pathway. And then there's some students who are going to go to college on totally something unrelated. And so pathways are just kind of a slant or a lens by which to study for the next few years. So it's not like picking a college major, it's just picking like a focus by which to study. Are there questions on that? Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly go through we have 2 types of pathways in Long Beach Unified 2. Some that have no admission criteria. So there are some pathways that you do not have to have any minimum GPA. You don't have to have any math prerequisites. In these pathways, residents do have priority at this pathway. So for example, if you're applying for tech at Wilson, the Wilson residents would have priority, and then they lottery the rest of the seats. Same thing with Sega at Milliken. The Milliken residents would have priority, then they lottery the rest of those seats, AGL at Cabrillo, and et cetera. We do have some pathways in Long Beach that do have minimum criteria and a minimum GPA. Some might have an algebra requirement. And then often at these schools, there is not residential priority. So for example, if you were applying to Quest at Milliken, it does not matter if you live in the Milliken area, it's going to rank all of the applicants by their GPA, top to bottom, and the top 185 will get in. And so examples of that would be Poly Pace, Milliken Quest, Milliken Laureate, Distinguished Scholars at Wilson. They take the top GPA, top down, and then they cut off. I say cut off in case there are too many that apply, and that does happen in some pathways, but at this point, I just want to also note that most kids will get their first choice on their application. Last year, we had 95% of students get their first choice. So odds are, if this helps calm parents, and I know it's helpful for me as a parent, that odds are if you put something first on your application, your student is going to get it. And so what we want to do right now in this explore phase is just really make sure you're picking a pathway that your student will want to be in, will want to enjoy the next few years of school. You know, you definitely wouldn't want to be in an arts pathway if art really isn't your thing. If you're not into drawing and painting or digital or graphic design or singing or theater, if you're not really committed to doing that maybe for 4 years, then maybe an arts pathway would not be the best fit. So really thinking about what would be a good fit for your student. And again, at all of our high schools, they have AP classes. At all of our pathways have access to AP. All of our pathways have that. So some things to think about. Are you applying for your homeschool? Will you get residential priority? Will you have transportation? Our high school office spends the whole month of September trying to move students around because students have gotten accepted to a school and now 2 or 3 weeks in, the parents are realizing, you know what? I just can't drive my kid to Wilson every day, or I just can't get my kid to Sato or to CAMS, that drive is too far. So considering transportation might be important for your family too. Although I did hear that Long Beach Transit is going to be offer free busing for our Long Beach Unified students. So that might be helpful or beneficial to some kids and some families. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through a couple examples of some high schools and their pathways and how this layering program works, because a lot of schools have a layered program. So for example, here are the pathways at Lakewood High School. At Lakewood High School has 5 pathways. They have the technology pathway, a digital media, arts and communication. They have health occupations and sports medicine, and they have Odyssey, which is marine-based and environmental. So at these pathways here, Lakewood residents, there's no minimum GPA. Anybody in Long Beach Unified or anybody not in Long Beach Unified can apply. There's no minimum criteria, but Lakewood residents will get priority. So we'll place the computer, kind of when the computer goes through the applications, it'll place the Lakewood residents first, and then it'll place every other student who put it first on their application. If there's too many, it kind of shuffles them up and it'll randomly assign students into those pathways. On the right-hand side, you see one more pathway that they have, which is called Merit Scholars. Merit Scholars has some requirements. So Merit Scholars has a minimum GPA of 3.4. You have to be enrolled in 8th grade algebra, and you have to have at least 2,500 on the SBAC exam or an equivalent type of exam from last year. And again, in Merit Scholars, it doesn't matter where you live. They're going to take the top 120 or 150 students, rank them top to bottom GPA, and then those students will get in. Same thing with their nights program. So what we found in the last few years, and what many of the high schools found, is you had a lot of students who met those top GPAs, who had those 4.0s, 3.7s, but they also wanted to do something like health and sports medicine. They also wanted to have that, they get the CPR certification in those classes. They're getting real world practice. They go out and they tape the athletes, they work with the trainers, there's a physical therapy part of it. So we have these students who had that criteria being an typical honors student, but they wanted those pathway experiences. And so Lakewood has what's called the Nights program. So you could be a Nights in DMAC, or you could be Nights HOSM or Nights Odyssey. And again, those students are let in by according to their GPA. I'll give another example of that layered program. Millikan has that layer program. Their pathways are Compass, MBA, Peace, and Sega. Residential priority, no minimum GPA. Residents will be placed first. The rest of the students will be lotteried. But then they have Quest, which is not affiliated with the pathway. And then they have Laureate. So again, those students who wanted to be in that social justice pathway, but also wanted, an honors or accelerated math and English class, they could apply for Laureate. And again, these students are top-down GPA. So most of the high schools have that layered program, except for Poly. So Poly, I'll go over Poly because I know a lot of IVA students live in that Poly residential area, and there might be questions about Poly. So here are Poly's pathways. They have math and science and beach, they have meds, they have Poly arts, and they have PAC-RIM, which is their international business. Again, Poly residents will have priority in these pathways. And then the system, once they place everybody who put it first on their application, will lottery the rest of the seats. Poly doesn't have that layered program, but they do have 2 programs. So they have PACE and CIC, 2 of the oldest pathways in our district. PACE, the minimum GPA is the 3.7, 8th grade algebra. There's no residential priority in PACE. So every student who applies is considered equal, and then top-down GPA. CIC is another pathway. There's a minimum 3.0 to apply for CIC, and CIC will give residential priority. So CIC this year is going to place residents, and that's actually not new this year. It's been like that for the last few years. CIC will give residential priority. Okay, and then Wilson is another example. Again, here are the pathways, and here are the pathways that have minimum criteria. Theirs is called Distinguished Scholars. I think I skipped Jordan. They have engineering, JMAC, and LEAPS. And again, these do not. Are there any questions on pathways? Or any of that? And there's questions in the chat.
I'm sorry, yes.
Oh my gosh.
No, that's okay. There have been a couple. I can read to you the questions that came so far.
Okay.
Somebody asked, how easy is it for students to get into CAMS?
Excuse me, I got caught up there. So CAMS, like I said, we are a consortium district with CAMS. So CAMS is a little bit different. Long Beach Unified is awarded 54 seats to CAMS. So how it works is we have 22 middle schools in Long Beach Unified. So each of our middle schools gets 2 seats. And so that's 44 right there. So 44. And then our private schools get 2 seats as well. And so what we usually do when we combine all of the applicants from our private schools, it's about 300, between 200 and 300. And so it's the size of our middle school. So we count all of our private schools, charter schools as one school, so to speak, and 2 seats from there. So we guarantee 2 seats from all of those. And that usually leaves about 10 seats left over. And so after that, all students with the STEM index are then ranked top to bottom. And so it's according to a STEM index. And the STEM index is a combination of your SBAC or equivalent test score and your math grade. And there's a whole formula on our website that you can check out for STEM index for CAMS. So CAMS can be a little more tricky. What I recommend to families who are really interested in CAMS is to put CAMS number 1, and SATO is a great number 2 because they're very similar. If you are interested in a heavy engineering in a med bio pathway, that's a similar experience. So CAMS number 1, SATO number 2, and you should be pretty golden with those 2 options. That's my recommendation for CAMS because it can be a little tricky. I think last year we had about 114 applicants. And again, Long Beach Unified only gets 54 spots.
Another question was, I'm just looking up, it says, are Millikan laureate kids placed in their pathways before non-laureate?
Not necessarily before, because it's a separate, on the application, you would apply for it separately. So some students might put laureate piece, for example, first, and another student might just put piece first, and they're all placed at the same time. So the system doesn't place one first and one the other. It's once the computer rolls through them all, it places all the number 1 choices at that time. I don't know if that answered it or not, but I guess the answer would be no, they're not placed first.
Can I ask a quick follow-up on that? Sorry.
Yes, go for it.
Thanks, Ms. Gordon. And thank you, Ms. Beth. Didn't Compass used to have a GPA requirement? Is it new?
It used to, yeah, it used to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question was, are there any writing pathways specific for writing?
No, but I can guarantee you're going to write in all of our pathways. So there's not one specifically for writing. That's a good question. No, but I know that writing is integral in so many of our pathways, especially, well, not especially, because every student's going to be taking English language arts. Every student will be taking, history, and there's a lot of writing, especially if you're taking the AP classes and in those where there's a lot of writing. So they'll definitely be getting writing in their English language arts classes. We don't have a pathway specifically for that. Good question.
And English language arts is also the only class that they'll take all 4 years in high school.
That's the only mandated one, yes, that they'll take all 4 years. Exactly. Yeah, perfect.
The next question is about applying, and I'm wondering if this is something you're coming up to. It says, do we apply to the pathway schools directly through them, or is it on January 5th, 2022 through the website?
January 5th, 2022 through the website, your application will open and all of the pathways will be there, and you can rank them 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And the question also is for CAMs, do you have to apply directly through them and then again on the website with LBUSD, or do you only apply on the website just like you would for any of the other high schools?
Good question. If you live in Long Beach, you will apply just through us. If you do not live in Long Beach, you actually cannot apply through us because of that consortium. If you live, for example, in Torrance, or if you live in Carson or Paramount, you actually have to apply directly through CAMS because you would apply through your school district. But if you live in the Long Beach Unified School District boundaries, then you would apply through us. So that would just depend on where your home high school of residence is. So if your home high school of residence is, you just apply January 5th through the 18th. If Long Beach Unified is not your home high school, then you would need to contact CAMS to apply directly through CAMS.
I have a follow-up to that really quick, sorry. And so even if our child attends IVA, a Long Beach school, but if we live outside the district, we apply through CAMS, not the other way.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Any other questions?
So yeah,
Okay.
there's like two more that are in the chat right now, and then we can keep going. It says,
Okay.
do we still have to list our home school in one of the slots? So this is for like a Long Beach resident. Do you have to list what your home school is?
You do, just in case as a backup, because we do need a default just in case you don't get into the school that you applied for. So for example, Poly is our most applied to high school district-wide. And there are more students who actually live in the Poly residential area than they have seats for. So we can't always guarantee you're going to get your first choice or your second choice. So for example, if you're putting Poly, we can't necessarily guarantee that. Again, 95% of kids did get their first choice. So we work our darndest to get every 8th grader into their first choice. But in case that, there are that 5% who we just applied for very popular pathways and it just didn't work out, we do need to have a default. And so your homeschool does become your default as your backup, because you need to have a space somewhere.
And then another question is Lakewood address included in Long Beach USD?
Part of Lakewood is, so I don't know exactly where the boundary is, but I know like Lakewood High School, Hoover, even Gompers is part of Long Beach Unified. But when you get to like Stephen Foster and further up towards Candlewood, north of Candlewood, it is not part of Long Beach Unified. It's part of, I think, ABC or even Bellflower. So like I know Mayfair High School is not part of Long Beach Unified. So I don't know where the cutoff boundary is exactly. So some of Lakewood is in Long Beach Unified and some of Lakewood is in other districts.
Thank you. You can keep going, Rebecca, if you have.
Okay. So just kind of back on those pathways, really thinking about what might be best for your student, is a bigger high school, a comprehensive high school, or maybe a smaller high school might be best for your student, really thinking about those two. And so how do you know, right? How do you explore? I'm going to show you a couple places where you can learn more. So I'm going to first take you to lbschools.net. This takes you to our main homepage. So again, it's lbschools.net. We have a tab right here called Parents. If you go all the way down to school choice, this takes you to our page where you can look at, TK through grade 5. We're going to skip down to 8th to 9th grade school choice. This is our homepage where we have most of our information, and it's usually pretty current up here. And so again, this is that prepare phase. So we do have a frequently asked questions document that you can read through. This is for our families here for enrollment. We have an enrollment packet that you can download here. And this is our enrollment packet for high school choice. And so just a few questions. As far as your transcripts, test scores, and 8th grade schedule, we're working with Ms. Gordon, who's going to help us and send that information over to us. So we'll get that straight from IVA. But the top part, or the top documents you may need to gather.
Actually, and I want to make sure that parents really hear that, because I know that was been stressful.
Yes.
And I'll put it in the chat too. But we will be sending from IVA the GPA, the SBAC scores, and their schedule. Is that right? That's what we're.
That's it.
And the main thing with schedule is just knowing what math class they were in for 8th grade.
Exactly. And so again, we have it on our district website because we do get students who are applying from Garden Grove, from Seal Beach. And so we don't work with every school to have them do that. In our Long Beach schools we work with, so we're working with St. Joseph, St. Barnabas, Bethany Baptist. So all of our local schools we do work with to collect transcripts for families, but we have to have it on our website because we do get inquiries from, from other school districts. So for you folks, you won't have to add the transcripts, test scores, or current schedule. They'll provide that for us. And then just some current parent information, contact information, some background here. And so there's some forms here. There is a language form that we have to collect from all of the students who enroll, and a student health history form, and some updated immunizations. And so here's the description of the immunizations. I know in 7th grade, Tdap is an important one for our students to get before they come to Long Beach Unified. And so here are the things. Many parents are asking, I know many of our IVA families went to a Long Beach Unified school for kindergarten through 5th grade. And we get a lot of questions. Do I have to really submit a birth certificate? We were there just in 5th grade. And the answer is maybe. And I know that's not a good answer, but sometimes your elementary schools were really good about uploading all of the documents in your file and putting it into our computer system. And some schools weren't, and it just comes down to that. I wish I had a better answer. I'm sure there is a copy of your birth certificate somewhere in our warehouse or somewhere in some storage bin, but we would have to, go locate it. And so if we don't have it on file in the digital file, we would just ask for you to resubmit it. So when you call us, and that's why we're really asking for a lot of families just to call us, that's the best way to find out if we have it on file or not, is just to give us a call. Then we can, if you say, my student was there in 5th grade, we quickly look it up and we'll say, okay, it looks like we have the birth certificate, but we're missing the language documents, or we have some things. So I wish it was just a one size fits all answer, and unfortunately isn't. You could just gather all the documents and send it to us, and that way you're covered and you don't have to call us. But if you don't want to go through all of those documents, then you can give us a call and we're happy to look up what we have in the digital file on your student. Okay. So again, to get those documents, you can go here. I'll drop a link to them too in the chat when we, in a few moments, I'll drop a link to those documents as well. So you can download them from our district website. Here's something that I think are really cool, is our pathway websites. So these pathway websites are such a good way for you to explore the pathways and have your student really sit down. As I told you, I have 2 kids in high school, and these websites were very helpful in deciding which pathway my own kids were going to go to. So there's 2 ways to explore, by high school and by industry. If you click on by industry, it's just that. There's a short video on pathways and linked learning. Then you can also look and see which of our high schools have certain pathways. So if your kid is very interested in robotics, in engineering, if that's really where they're leaning towards and they're really enjoying those classes, you can click on that link and it'll take you to all of the different high schools that have an engineering pathway at their site. And so you can explore from there. What I think is cool about that, and I'm going to click on McBride, for example, here. For each of these pathway websites, they should be very similar in how they're set up. And so you'll have a description of engineering or the pathway here. So here it talks about their project Lead the Way based. It talks about the classes. For each of the pathways, there is a video that you can watch. And usually in the video, they're going to highlight students. They might highlight teachers. And you'll see the kids actually doing some of the projects. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see some of the internship or work-based experiences that they will get and who some of their industry partners are. But this is the part that my kids really enjoyed, my own personal kids, is really looking at what is a sample schedule of a student who is in engineering. So if I'm in engineering in McBride, that means in 9th grade, I'm going to be taking principles of engineering, introduction to design. 10th grade, I'll be taking digital electronics. And 11th grade, integrated manufacturing, and then 12th grade, engineer design and development. So this is that course sequence. And you can see, keeping in mind, every freshman is going to have English, every freshman is going to have math, every freshman will be taking a science, but it's these elective classes, these pathway classes that differentiate. Again, one thing I didn't point out is to get into the minimum criteria for each pathway is down here underneath. So for their engineering, you would need a 3.0 to get apply. So I'll go back, and so that's McBride engineering, and then you can compare it to, for example, Poly's engineering. So Poly engineering, again, a sample schedule, you would take introduction to design, computer essentials, civil engineering, cybersecurity. a few classes here, and then medical clerical occupations, developing future mental behavioral health professionals. So you see the different type of pathway and the different strands. And again, for theirs, you would see there's no entrance criteria for their beach pathway. So it's a good way to explore by pathway, or you can explore by high school. So if you know, we live by Lakewood High School, I want my kid to walk to school, their sister goes to Lakewood, as great as all these other high schools are, my kiddo's going to Lakewood. So you can just explore straight that way. And again, you can click on all of the different pathways and it would take you through the same thing. So it would take you through a pathway description, a video, sample schedule. Here they're taking physical oceanography, aquaculture, marine biology. You can see the entrance criteria here. There's always, you can get contact information. So say you really want to know more about this pathway, there's usually more contact information. So these pathways, my kids found them to be really helpful because it's one thing to hear PEACE and ATM on all these acronyms, but it's another to really look at which classes will I be taking? And does this sound like something I would want to take for the next few years? Does this sound like it would be my interest? So these career pathways and these are really, I think, a great way to start exploring. You can start your exploration. I'm looking for my tab here. You start your exploration with those career pathway websites.
So Rebecca, there are some questions in the chat.
Okay.
Let me make sure I think, I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions.
Sure.
I think it starts with if they choose different schools, say McBride is their top choice, and Sato as a runner-up school, and they get accepted into both, will they have a choice on which one to decide?
They won't get accepted into both. So you are probably going to get your first choice if you put McBride, or you will get your first choice if you put Sato. So we're just asking you to make your choice earlier, right? So instead of getting 2 acceptances and then deciding which one to choose, the odds are you are going to get your first choice. So we're just asking that parents make that choice in January. It's just the logistics of, we're able to give students their number one choice when we are really defining it at the first time. It just gets very complicated when we allow every kid to get 2 or 3 acceptances. It kind of just throws off the balance in the numbers a bit. So I would decide to go check out McBride, check out Sato, and decide, because odds are you probably will get your first choice.
Another question is, if you are considering a different district, but they don't start interdistrict transfers until March, will you be able to leave LBUSD once you've been assigned to school?
We won't drop students until the first day of school in September. So we often have students who apply for Long Beach Unified. They might also apply for Cerritos, or they might apply for St. John Bosco or Valley Christian. So you can apply to, we won't, again, interdistrict permits, as you said, aren't even available until March. And so our suggestion is go through our process and have an acceptance, because it's much easier to have the acceptance and not need it than to all of a sudden in June or July decide you do want to come to Long Beach Unified and there might not be space in the pathway that you prefer. So you can definitely apply for us. And again, you won't be dropped until September when you don't show up on those first few days of school. We prefer that you call and let us know that you might not be coming. That way we can give that spot to somebody else who might be waiting for it. But technically you will still have, and you'll be reserved with your seat until those first few weeks of school in September.
The next question, I think, and Susan, you can correct me, I think it was about the documents for the enrollment packet. It says, will you let us know if the record is not in LBUSD?
Yeah, so if you give us a call, we'll look up your child and you say, we used to be in Long Beach Unified. Oh, wait, am I misunderstanding the question?
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
I think
Okay, yes.
it's that. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we have you on the phone, we'll say, okay, it looks like we have your birth certificate. It looks like we have proof of residency. We'll just need these few documents here.
And the next question, I think, is probably relevant for a lot of families. If students were in LBUSD for elementary school and have siblings who are also in LBUSD, how does that work on a parent view account?
We'll just have you'll have one parent university account or parent view account. So you should have all your kids on one account. So we'll link them and make sure they're all connected.
So if a student was dropped from, an IVA student gets dropped from parent view, correct? Once they attend IVA, so then they just have to get added back into their parent view. account.
Exactly. We just need to reactivate your account because when you left Long Beach Unified, your account became dormant because you were enrolled in a different school system. And then when you come back to Long Beach, we just reactivate the account.
And for all parents, just to make it really clear, every IVA student needs to make sure that you reactivate your child's parent view account to apply for an LBUSD high school.
Yes.
The next question is, and then I also see that Kimberly is raising her hand, and but I'll just go through and then I'll give you a chance to, Kimberly. Is it said, where do we email the documents and enrollment form to?
You can email them to parentuniversity@lbschools.net. So if you just want to gather the documents, you can email them to parentuniversity@lbschools.net.
And then also I wanted to, at the next meeting, you're going to be coming to IVA on November 30th. We have Rebecca coming, so she will be in person at IVA on November 30th to continue to give information and answer questions. And I know you so kindly offered to take paperwork that day as well. So if you want to hand anything to Rebecca on November 30th at IVA, she'll be here after school on November 30th.
Absolutely. I can be there. If you want to bring me your enrollment packet, I'll be happy just to take it with me. That way you don't have to worry about scanning or uploading any documents. I'll be happy to take it back to our office, have our team process it, and get you that parent view activation code within a couple days.
One question says, what if we know his original LBUSD ID? Should we include LBUSD ID? Should we include that?
You can, but we'll find it. That's okay. I mean, with the name and a birth date, we can pull up their student ID. If you have it and you want to include it, that's perfect, but it's not, you know, it's helpful, but it's not necessary because once we enter the name and the birth date, it usually pops right up.
And it said, can you describe the selection process in more detail or provide a link to a description? I'd like to better understand what happens to students that don't get their first choice.
So it's a computer system. So I think there might be in the frequently asked questions at the top. I believe there is some information about that process in a little more specific detail, but the computer is going to go through and place students according to the pathway that they chose, whether it has a residential priority or a GPA. So the computer is programmed to differentiate between the two, and it'll place all of the students. Once it goes through all the first choices and fills it with as many spots and fills it as much as it can, it then goes, if a student, for example, does not get its first choice, so let's take a student who applied for CAMS, it'll go through CAMS, and if the student ranked in the top 2 at the STEM index, they will get placed at CAMS. If the student did not, then the computer kind of then jumps to the second choice. And as I mentioned earlier, if the student put SATO, historically, there has been room in SATO for number 2 choices. And so it'll then place the student at SATO. And then it goes from there. So it's that kind of a computerized system. So the computer does the first few rounds. What I can say is after the first few rounds, we do have a team that takes a look at the students, because again, it's not that many, 95% of students get their first choice. So we do take attention to the students who don't get in. So we do look at those, that 5%, and we look and see, okay, what happened? Why didn't the student get their application? What did they put as their second choice? Is there anything we can do? We keep our eye on those applications too, in case we do get a phone call from a parent who says, you know, we're going to La Salle, we're going to go to St. John Bosco, and we go, oh, we just got a seat at CAMS. Who can we call? And we go to the next person on the list. So we do, because again, we're parents on the high school choice team. We are, you know, we put our parent hat on. We also put our district hat on. We're really trying to do the best by students in the most equitable way. And so we really try to do some work with those kids who don't get their first choice. Sometimes it's just very difficult. So for example, let's say a student put CAMS number 1, and then they put Millikan Compass number 2. Well, Millikan Compass historically fills with first choices. It's our number 1 most applied to pathway in our district. So when the computer is doing its system, it's going to look for CAMS, and perhaps the student didn't get into CAMS, and it'll go to Compass Laureate, and they put that number 3. Well, or number 2. And the computer's not going to be able to do that because Compass is already filled. Then the computer will try to pick up the student's third choice. And let's just say the student third put Poly Beach. Poly Beach, again, fills with first choices. And so that student then might get their 4th choice. And so that's that default. That's why we do ask for a default. And we will definitely make sure that the student gets a spot at their home school. So That can happen. And that does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't. We're striving every year for 100% first choices, but there are just, there's so many students applying, and sometimes, there's just a wave of popularity. Some pathways for one reason or another becomes very popular, and we just cannot accommodate all of the students applying. So there are some students who do not get their first choice, and that's how that might happen. Did that answer the question a little bit? I hope. More clarity can be in that frequently asked questions document, but that's kind of a rough way of how the system works.
And Kimberly, did you want to ask a question?
Yes. If I live outside of the Long Beach Unified School District, like I live in Lakewood, but Bellflower Unified, can I
Okay.
still submit my information for parent view?
Yes,
Or-
oh, absolutely. Mhm,
Okay, okay. I was just
100%.
making sure. Okay, thanks.
And there was a question about turning in. Well, I know that you said, I know on the website it says that the deadline for handing in paperwork for activating your parent view account is tomorrow. But you have said that we could have until you're going to be on campus on November 30th. So in response to, is the deadline tomorrow? The answer is, yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just a soft deadline. We put that on there because we wanted to light a fire under a lot of parents, because so many parents hear that the application doesn't open until January, and so they wait to the last minute with filling in paperwork. So this is definitely more of a soft deadline to encourage parents to get their information into us, because once you're in our system, you will start to get our emails. We will start to send you, for example, we have some information events that are coming up. Every high school is going to have an information night. So when you're in our system, you will start to get reminders. You'll start to get some information about what's happening with high school choice. So we encourage families, the sooner the better. We also we want to make sure everything is uploaded correctly, that we have everything in there so that when January 5th comes, all families are ready to go. We would hate for families to get caught up in January 6th, trying to scramble to get paperwork together. And we just would rather work earlier than later. So, but no, that's a soft deadline. There's no cutoff or anything. We have families that enroll with us all the way through January, so January 18th is an on-time application, but there's no real cutoff. We'll take applications all through. We'll take enrollment all throughout. But so yes, you can definitely have through November, but try to get your paperwork in sooner than later.
Actually, there's two questions in referring to last year when we were online. So one question is, would a letter of recommendation from a current teacher sway the decision process in light of last year's challenge that may have affected GPAs? And another parent asked a similar question. My child did not do well online, but is doing really well now in person. Is there any, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I have lots of thoughts, but the reality is, right now, there's no letter of rec or anything that would change the acceptance process. Again, with equity being in mind, we have over 5,000 eighth graders that are applying through this process. And it was a challenging year for a lot of students. And we always, despite a pandemic, we have every year parents who have students who, for whatever reason, didn't get their act together, so to speak, or something happened and they're doing amazing in 8th grade. So that is a constant theme that we've seen for a long time. I taught middle school for 20 years, and I would always have 8th graders that just soared and did so wonderful. And I look at their 6th and 7th grades and it's like they're a different kid. So, and then the pandemic, of course, heightened that for a lot of our students. So I know that in Long Beach Unified, we gave a lot of patience and grace last year. With our 7th graders and our 6th graders, there was a lot of patience and grace as far as turning in work, late deadlines, extended deadlines, a lot of assistance, a lot of tutoring. So there's a lot of patience and grace and given in the grade. And so we feel that we can, keep our minimums there. So there will at this point not be any change in the minimum GPA, and then we're not going to have like letters of recommendation or anything like that. Having said that, once all of our schools have opportunity for AP classes, All of our schools have opportunity to take accelerated classes. And so it's really, there's just a few pathways that your student might not be able to apply for, but most of the pathways don't have GPA requirements, and most of the pathways do allow for students to still continue to take AP classes and challenging classes and be on robotics clubs and robotics teams and still do all of the things they want to do. So
And I really, parents, please feel like you can talk to me about any of these concerns as well. I feel more equipped to answer questions now. Thank you, Rebecca, for that. And then anything I can't answer, Rebecca has been very responsive and available. So if there's like any specific question about your child and what school and their GPA and all of those things, I would love to help you. And I said, Rebecca will be at IVA on Tuesday, November 30th at 3:15. And we'll be able to continue to help us with all of this. So it'll be nice to be in person and be able to get help. And if you need to bring in paperwork or show what, just some of your questions and concerns, make sure you come that day. So yeah, thank you, Rebecca.
yeah, definitely.
And we can also set up another, I know you said you're available for more meetings. So if we feel like we need another meeting later on through this process, we will set that up as well. So those of you who feel like you can't be there on Tuesday, November 30th, just let me know. We also have some of our friends from IVA High School are here to give you information about IVA High School. I want to make sure you have time to finish up. And then I know Summer's here. And yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
I say I'm done. That's all I got. So here's our choice helpline. We do have a team of parent coordinators, speak English, speak Spanish, speak Khmer, and we are happy to answer your questions. So if you're not sure even where to start, or if you have the packet, please call our helpline. Our helpline is 562-997-8306, and you usually get a phone call returned back within 1 business day. So obviously on a Friday, you won't get it back till Monday, but we check that helpline all day long. So you usually get the phone call within a couple of hours. So please feel free to give us a call and if with any questions. So, and again, thank you for letting me to be here. I will stop sharing so IVA High School can start. Okay, and yeah.
I know that there are people with more questions, and please let Rebecca know if and also, or let me know, and we will continue to help you with this process.
You're welcome, Gabby. Okay.
And now for Summer and Laura with IVA High School. I hope you guys stay on and learn more about IVA High School. You have even more options than just LBUSD. So take over, Summer. Hi, Summer. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. So I'm so excited you guys are here. You can learn some more about our sister school, or your sister school. And so, Laura, are you able to share?
Yes, I'm pulling.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and get started here. All right, so a little bit about life at IVA High School. So one amazing thing about our school is we are pretty much a private school education in a public school setting. So we are an extremely small school. We have about a little over 100 students, and that's for 4 grades. So one thing just straight off the bat is we know every student, we know them extremely well, and they know each other really well. So we're a very strong community, and we know what their interests are, their passions are, and how they evolve and change, right? Because when students enter at 14, their passions and stuff and their interests evolve by the time that they leave high school. And so we're able to follow those interests and passions from 14 all the way to 18 and adapt and have a flexible curriculum for the things that they're interested in. We really want our students to be exposed to all the things that they want to be exposed to. And so we have a really broad extracurricular program as well. And students are encouraged to join lots of different parts. So in our presentation, I'm going to go through a little bit about our mission and vision, about our teaching methods, and then about our community, and then the supports that we provide our students throughout their 4 years of high school. And so it's important for you to be thinking about what do you value in a learning community? And then you all chose IVA Middle School for a reason, right? And there's different parts of this of IVA Middle School that I'm sure that you really appreciate. That's the inquiry-based learning and the impact that we make on our community. And that's something that carries through to the high school. And so we have the same mission and vision at IVA, and we're able to help the high school students, now that they're very familiar with the intellectual virtues model of education, now they're able to really apply it. And so we take the learning that happens in the classroom and we apply it beyond the classroom walls and into our community. So we really create those real world environment, the real world environment for our students. So, so wait, go back one. So we are a supportive Long Beach Public High School, and we're inclusive of all learners. So for our school, you don't have to have a particular GPA. You don't have to be in a particular attendance area. All students are welcome at our school. If students have an IEP, or if students have different learning challenges, if students are accelerated students, we offer AP classes, we offer honors classes. And so we really do include everyone that wants to be a part of our school, has chosen our school, and has been welcomed at our school. So we use what's called learner-centered experiences, and our curriculum model incorporates these learner-centered experiences, and they really are what 21st century learners need, right? So that's the creativity, the critical thinking, collaboration, and we incorporate this in every curriculum plan that we use. We do a lot of cross-curricular collaboration, so our departments work interdisciplinary. So a lot of times we have science and art working together, or we'll have ethics and geometry working together, and we're able to create these very dynamic projects that students are able to think across curricular content areas and then apply them to the real world. So here we have a mural making class, because we had a lot of students that were interested in mural making. So we went ahead and got that class approved as a college prep class. And so it's UC and Cal State approved. And then they painted the murals in the back of our school. We also have students here on a field trip at Bolsa Chica. They're interested in the environment and improving the environment. And so we did water testing out in the wild at Bolsa Chica wetlands. This was a project they did in science where they were making roller coasters. And so in order to learn force and motion in physics, they created their own roller coasters and used complex math in order to solve how to create a roller coaster with velocity and how, put the force to that according to their design. This in the middle here was an art project that one of our students made and ended up moving forth and creating t-shirts for our whole staff and faculty, where it's called Breaking the Chains, was something she was passionate about. We are at the ropes course here with our entire school. We do at least 2 school field trips a year with the entire school, and that's above and beyond the classroom curriculum. So we really want learning to be personal. We want the students to have choice and voice. We want them to think deep. We want them to work together, and we want the learning to be authentic. There's also another step where there's critique and revision. So that's the learning process, and that's very similar to IVA Middle School, where we're not just looking for one singular grade. The learning is more important to us. So students are able to turn in assignments and then often get critiques and revisions to resubmit them, because we really want them to learn. That's the primary goal here. It's not just to get a grade on the first try, right? So we set those goals, we hold the students accountable, we provide them models of what they can strive to achieve, and we really, we have them reflect on their learning too. Okay, new slide, sorry. Spent a lot of time on that one. So how does your child learn best? You know your child more than anyone. Your children know themselves more than anyone. Are they a hands-on learner? Do they work well with other people individually? So that's something to really be thinking about as you're looking for a school. How will they incorporate their choice and their voice in how they show their understanding of learning? And that's something that we really stress. So we might have a project and we have our standards, we're Common Core, all that stuff, but the students might express their understanding in different ways per their interests and their passions. And because we're a small school, we're able to adapt to the things that they want to do in order to show their understanding. So, and we work side by side with our students to think about those complex projects and how they're going to demonstrate their understanding. So I'm going to show you here, this is Amaya. She's one of our juniors now. She's a sophomore when she did this video.
The Academy is a unique place to learn because students are able to interact with their teachers and be honest with them about the way they want to learn and basically be involved in how they learn it. And I think that's something that you don't always get in regular public schools or traditional public schools, is where you and your teacher can really create a relationship where you know each other well enough to know how you handle specific things and how you prefer to do things a certain way. And I think that's pretty awesome.
And so often, you know, we'll work with students and we're like, wow, that's an amazing idea. We didn't even think about that. Yeah, let's put that as an option. And then there's sometimes we're like, you know, let's raise the bar a little bit. All right. I know you can do more. Let's do that. But I'm gonna challenge you a little bit more, right? Because we know our students, we know their areas of growth. And I had a student say, but that's the way that I do things. That's the way that I know how to do it. And I'm like, yeah. And now we're going to challenge you because you already got that done. So let's challenge you here, right? So we're able to have those conversations and push them just a little further each time. Slide. Thank you.
All right. Nice.
What do? We empower our learners to collaboratively engage in project-based learning, moving from inquiry to impact. And that's really where, you know, our school stands out, is we want to be able to say, okay, you have these great ideas. Now, how are you going to apply it? All right. And let's bring in an architect. Let's bring in a professional creative designer, and let's have them give you feedback about how to make your project even better. So like right now, our students are working in the ethics class about learning about universal design and how, you know, disability rights and what the ethics are of disability rights. And then they go into geometry, and then now they have a client that we worked with, a professional architect, to create these different profiles. They build empathy for these clients, and then they go into geometry, and then now they're making homes or a retail space or a classroom space using what they learned in ethics and now applying it to geometry to now do the design for geometry. So we had students using SketchUp, which is very similar to what architects use, and designing these floor plans and then turning them into the architect. She gives them feedback, and now they're making 3D models of these rooms. And so the students, you know what, like they're so interested in what they're doing, and they're like, you know, cutting these pieces, and like there's cardboard everywhere in the classroom, and it's just in a creative maker space. And that's when we know that we're really being successful, is when every student is just grasping a hold of what they're learning and they're super engaged in it. So we want to have fun in the classroom. We want students to be creative. We want learning to be authentic. But we also, we want them to be thinking deeply and be challenged about what they're doing. So here's just a couple of different examples of things that students have made. A big part of this too is a connected community. And so really be thinking about, where is your student going to get that sense of belonging? Because if they don't feel like they belong to high school, no matter how great the program is, they're not going to want to go. And so who are they going to connect to? Where are they going to see themselves? Where are they going to be able to be themselves? And how will they contribute to that school environment? And so student voice is something that we really value at our school. We have a leadership team, and students have a loud voice at our school to be able to shape and change things that they really want for a school. So we've had students propose all kinds of different ideas, and we sit down and we talk through it. So we co-construct an equitable community where all learners explore, contribute, and belong. That's why we exist. That's what we do every day. It's our purpose. So this is Miss McKenna. She's our school counselor, and she's going to be just talking a little bit about what that means.
So when describing our academy community, the best way to put it is everyone belongs here. So if you go on our website, you'll see in big letters that says you belong here. And that's it. Like, every student who walks onto our campus just feels the vibe of like, I am allowed to be myself. They experiment with their clothing, their identity, their style, and it's all welcomed. And we have such a diverse community. that each student feels accepted, and not only accepted, but encouraged to continue to explore parts of themselves. And you also see that in the classroom. So we see in curriculum that our student voices are heard and they're integrated into the way that our teachers teach material. At the Academy, I belong, you belong, we belong.
Right now, our freshman class, their essential question is who am I and who are we? So really understanding who they are. And that's been really important coming off of a year and a half of a pandemic where, you know, they were very isolated. And so we talked about that. And what is the question that we really want to focus on across all of our 9th grade classes? And it's really who am I? Who are we, and how can we have students be represented in the classroom with the projects and with their how they understand the world, themselves, and our community in our school, but also in Long Beach, in the world. And so, like, for example, they're doing an identity project right now where they've learned about intersectionality and the different components of themselves and what they have in common and what differences they have. And then they're doing, they created playlists that represent different parts of who they are. And then they're also using an arts integrated project to design and put themselves on the record cover. The teacher actually literally buys records. And so they paint and they design that record cover, and each one is completely different from the next. And then they do a presentation about who they are to their community. And so we get to really know our students on a super deep, in-depth level. That's truly unique. We have a special education teacher on campus. We have 2 licensed marriage and family therapists and a counselor intern. And so it really does help us with such a small community to really provide that supportive, restorative environment where we know students are going to make mistakes, and we pull them back into the community. So I have conversations with the student. Like, we had one student that drew something on the wall, it's inappropriate. And so I pulled the student in and I was like, hey, you know what, this is, what happened. The student took responsibility for that. We also have cameras all over the school, so that helps. But anyways, they took responsibility for that. And then I said, okay, so now that you've taken away from the community, what can you do to give back to our community? And so I said, I'm gonna let you think on it and we'll come back to it. And she came back and she said, we have skate club and there's a lot of skateboards that people just leave and it looks unsafe. Can I build a skateboard holder for the back room there so that students can put their skateboards up there? I think it would be beneficial for the community. I was like, absolutely. So she worked with our school counselor. She came after school. They literally put this thing together, hung it on the wall, and then we were able to present it to the community. And it was a way to really pull her back in, right? So this is a way that, you vandalize something in our school, now you're contributing to something. And that's how we look at discipline. And we think about, like, let's pull you in. We don't just suspend you and say, get out of here, that kind of thing. We pull them back in and we say, hey, you need attention, you need support, we're here for you, let's do this together. Maybe just play Julie's. This is Dr. Lee, one of our special education consultants.
So learning at the Academy is very inclusive and collaborative. We have an intervention system that we have in separate tiers to address academic needs, to address social emotional needs, to address even attendance and anything else that the child needs. We really take a whole child approach to education and not just focusing on their grades in the classroom. So we really get to know them as individuals, and we really pride ourselves in that.
So we also think about what's the end goal, right? So, like, we have classes, we have our schedule, we're thinking about that, but what's the end goal? And so we developed this as a staff, pulling a lot from Katie Martin's innovative learning. But we really, so this is part of our model at our school is critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, the emotional intelligence component, but also, like, we want our students to be strong digital citizens, global citizens. Of course, they need to learn the content, but we really want them to be immersed in the experience of learning. And that's truly what life is about, right? Like, we can ask Siri for any sort of information, but how can we really work with other people, problem solve problems that haven't been thought of yet, and really embrace that challenge and think deeply about what we're doing? And so that's what we're thinking about when we're developing our curriculum, how we're continuing to have touch points on how we're developing a strong graduate. So we do surveys constantly throughout the year. We do in the beginning of the year, we do in the end of the year, and sometimes in the middle of the year, depending on the year. And but this is our most recent survey information. And so we just had student-led conferences where the students lead their parent-teacher conference. And we got information from our parents back from that. So as you can see, the numbers are pretty high about our parents being super satisfied with our academic program, our teachers. They feel like our school is welcoming and a safe place to learn, that their child is connected to their learning. And even students are rating us high. In a high school to have these numbers, it's pretty incredible. And so this is just a comparison of parent surveys across district schools, charter schools, private schools. And you can see over the last couple of years that we're ranked up there with the private schools as far as our student and parent responses. And so you can see, like, for example, the teachers your child has this year, how do you feel about that? This year we're at 83% approval, and these are strongly agree. And so this isn't even taking into account the ones that agree. And so we're definitely scoring very high with our parent and student satisfaction. Let's hear from one of our parents. Actually, she has 2 sons at her school, a freshman and a senior this year.
The Academy prepares my son for college, career, and life. And essentially, just if I can put it into kind of a nutshell, in the ways that matter. Obviously, the Academy is looking at academics, but beyond that, I think that this incredibly dedicated group of teachers and staff who are phenomenal and passionate about what they do, they bring that every day to the campus and give that as kind of a gift, I think, to all of its students.
Next slide. Okay, so just some highlights. I'm just going to throw it at you and then I'll be done. You could ask some questions, or we can also, we'll be at IVA Middle School here and there throughout the year as well. Just, you know, we'll do a presentation for your children as well. And then we'll have a couple of other touch points. We also have our exhibition of learning tomorrow, which is a big event. We have 2 per year where the students get to showcase their learning. So you are welcome to join us as well tomorrow. But we were also, you know, we'll be having other high school information sessions where we can talk to you as well. Can you go back one, Laura?
Yeah.
Please. And so, like I said, it's a private school education in a free public school setting, which is pretty magical up here in Long Beach. We're a partner with LBCC, and so we also have that dual enrollment program. So sometimes we're not able to offer something that a child is interested in, and so what we do is we find it in the college class. And since we have this partnership, we're able to, for juniors and seniors especially, sometimes sophomores, to link them up with these college classes that they're able to take. And then we give them dual enrollment. So they get high school credit and they're already starting that college transcript. We have a UC approved curriculum. We offer AP classes and honors classes. We adjust our curriculum to student interest. So we've been able to get classes, like they were like, some kids were like, I don't want to take algebra 2. And I was like, well, what do you want to learn about math related? They're like, I want to learn about how to make money and how to budget my money. And I want to learn about like, what's a paycheck all about? Why do they take taxes out? And so we were able to get a UC approved class for personal finance. And we also got it for honors approved as well. And so, you know, we were able to offer that the last few years. We offered also creative writing. We had a lot of creative writers at our school. And so we got that class approved as an additional English credit. Last year, students were suffering with like, who am I and who is the world? And so we got a class approved called Self and Society, which was also English credit or an upper division elective credit for those applying to UC and Cal States. We're arts integrated. We take that holistic project-based approach. We have very small class sizes. 23 is the average versus 32 or above as the average. And we really want those authentic learning experiences. If you follow us on Instagram, Academy LBHS, you'll really be able to get a sense of even just some things that we've done this year. Pretty much every week we have something going on, if not multiple things a week about authentic experiences. And then we have an amazing school counselor, and I'm also a licensed therapist. And so we really work together to build that classroom community culture, school culture, and really focused on our students being seen, heard, and known. All right. So if you are interested, It's very easy. You just apply online. So you just go to our website and we have an application there. And again, there's no like requirements. You could just apply. The only thing that we do ask is if you come visit us, so you get a sense of our community. It is a different type of learning environment. Our school is in a warehouse that we've built out classrooms, and all the walls are different colors and there's student art everywhere. So come see it, come see what, if you like it, if it fits your child's learning style. And yeah, make sure that you connect with Ms. Sipperly or myself on any questions you have.
There was, I see a question in the chat and I wanted to read it out loud. A parent asked, will IVA graduates qualify for Long Beach College Promise? I see Laura did respond, yes, they do. So I want to make sure that was read out loud.
And I also want to share, we are having we're having information sessions coming up in the next, on December 8th, and then we're having a information session during the day on January 27th for parents that actually want to see how our classroom environment is. And I'm happy to schedule like a private tour if you're not able to make any of the information sessions. I'll put the link to the Eventbrite in the chat, and then we will also be meeting with your students at some point, hopefully, and giving them an invitation to the information session, if not sending one in the mail. Stop sharing here.
I think there might be an option to do a shadow day soon, possibly. Laura, is that an option?
Yeah, we're offering shadow days. We've had quite a few students that have started shadowing. And so if you're interested in doing a shadow day, if you go on our website, there's actually a little link where you can fill out what day and time works best for you. But I can also put my email in the chat and you can contact me directly with that, with the time and date that works for you, and we can set that up for your student. And if you have applied, if you didn't receive a confirmation of your application, it might not have submitted because you should automatically get a reply. And if you could please reach out to me via email. I don't think I can private message anybody, but I would love to connect with you if you have applied and haven't heard anything back from us, please.
Oh yeah, thank you, Laura, for putting that in the chat. And I want to do a better job too, Summer and Laura. You guys send me information that I can send out to our families now that I'm taking over on high school choice. So I do want to get this information out to all of our parents and not just the parents here. And I do want us to have another meeting so that this one was a little bit last minute just because there was a deadline tomorrow on the LBUSD website. But I'm hoping we can plan more meetings so that more parents can ask questions and get information.
And this doesn't impact that. So you can definitely do what Ms. Fass was talking about and apply everything that she said if that's what you want to do. But this is an additional choice. So it's separate from that process. So for our process, all you need to do is go to the website and apply. So it is separate from that. Any other questions? I'm looking forward to getting to know some of you a little bit more. You might know some students that are already at our school. So please talk to them, see how they're doing, or like I said, at shadow days, when you come in for tours too, we definitely have students talk about their experience. So you get a sense from them, because I can only say so much. I'm not in high school. So it's good to hear from their experience about what they think.
So, and I will stay on for the next 5-10 minutes. If any families have any specific questions about things for me in this process for just regarding IVA. Bill, I'm just looking for the email right now. I know you said what's the email to submit the enrollment app packet. I am just looking for it right now so I can send it over to you. And I also just wanted to let you know that the LBUSD people will be at our school on November 30th to accept any paperwork. I don't know, Summer and Laura, if you are able to come on that day as well. And since parents will be coming, and that way you can be there to have information. That was November 30th at 3:15. We're going to do it after school. And we would love for you guys to come too.
Yeah, we'll be there. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having us and staying on. I know it's a late night, so get to your families and do what you need to do. Nice. Thanks for having us and nice talking with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Summer, and thank you, Laura. Did anyone else have any questions for them before they take off, and then I just put the email in the chat, and now I'm looking back in the chat to see if I can find it. Well, yes, thank you guys.
Thanks.
And then if anyone is staying on because you have questions for me, just IVA, personal, specific, whatever. Like I said, I am looking for the parent email that I put, but thank you, parents. Please send me an email. Okay, found it. The email to send your enrollment packet to LBSD is now in the, it's in the chat, parentuniversity@lbschools.net, or hand things in November 30th. I hope that you guys all feel supported through this process. I'm glad that I know more so I can help you guys know more. Yeah, any more questions before we head out? My pleasure. I can't believe we're sending them to high school. Okay. Florence, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say I did submit the packet, and they didn't like one of the pieces that I sent, and he emailed me back, and we took care of it within about 20 minutes. So it was very easy, and they were very helpful.
Good. It sounds like people have had good experiences dealing with that.
Get all the stuff ready and then call them up and they'll deal with it, because even my kid was already in there. He just had to turn him back on in my parent view. So it was quite easy.
Oh, good.
But I did have to submit everything, like birth certificate and everything.
I think the packet is pretty daunting.
It looks like it, but if you do it wrong, they reach out to you. It's not like you're going to get rejected. It's like they'll reach out to you and say, oh, I don't like this bill because it's too old. That was what my problem. Like I scanned whatever I found, right? And it was an old electric bill and they wanted a newer one. And so I found a newer one. It was fine. So,
Okay.
but he was very helpful. Like he called me back. You leave a message and then they call you back, and he called me back and I missed him, and then I called him back. I did this little phone tag, but he instantly responded. So we're just. Good. It was scary. I was like scared for the whole process. I was like freaked out, but they were good. So
I know everybody is really. This is super stressful to have to like create a path for your child right now and be like, don't mess this up. And I, the more I'm learning about it, the more I'm feeling like, okay, it's going to be okay. It's not as bad as what we think. We're going to be able to figure this out. I know, like Natalie, with some of your concerns, I would like to talk to you more like specifically about them, because I think I understand some things better. And so if I need to set up any like meetings just to work with specific situations, I would love to do that for anyone who's is unclear or needs help. Please reach out to me.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Hi, Ms. Gordon.
Hi, Nicole.
So I'm still trying to research like all kinds of different possibilities, public, private, charter, you name it.
Good.
Is there like a resource where we could look into a list of all the private high schools as well?
That's a good question. Let me look at that, because you want a list of private high schools in the Long Beach area.
Yeah, I mean, I can Google it, but it was really nice that, the Long Beach School District has a thing, so you can go on there, you could look at the pathways, and then you go, oh, this school does this school does that, I'm just still trying to just research everything. Also looking into local, like in-person and hybrid opportunities. I know there's a couple. So just any additional alternative resources like that would be great.
Well, I remember last year when I didn't have this position, someone reached out to me from St. Anthony's High School and was asking, can we do a presentation? But I wasn't in a position to do anything.
Right. Right.
And so now that I'm in a position where I can provide those, it does seem like there'd be parents that would be interested in like having a meeting where representatives from different schools, and I'm sure these schools would love it if they could talk to families. So I'm just wondering about if I can reach out to schools around and set up a meeting where we just look at if parents are interested in all the options. Does that sound like something you're thinking?
Yeah, just something where, like in that kind of category, because it's just like you said, it's very overwhelming, and I just want to see if like we're looking in all the right options, if you know what I mean.